49 years after Elvis Presley died on its second floor, Graceland still does not behave like a normal house. It behaves like a heartbeat that never stopped. 500,000 people walk through its front doors every year, and most of them lower their voices the moment they step inside, the way you do in a church. And in a strange twist, the king's old Memphis home is back in the headlines again. Not because it was sold, and not because the family wanted the attention. It is back because someone tried to steal it out from under his granddaughter, using a dead woman's forged signature. The mansion that Elvis paid around $100,000 for in 1957 is now valued at something close to $500 million. And almost everything about how it got there is stranger than the music that built it. That is the thing people forget about Graceland. It was never really just a mansion. When Elvis bought it at 22 years old, it was a 13-acre farm with a colonial-style house sitting on a hill, and he bought it mostly to get his parents out of the spotlight and into somewhere quiet. But quiet was never going to last. Within a few years, he had turned the place into something closer to a private world. A refuge wired with everything a restless superstar could want. He added the famous wrought iron music gates shaped like sheet music. He built the racquetball building, the trophy room, the meditation garden. And downstairs he created the rooms that fans still line up to see, the jungle-themed den with its green shag carpet on the ceiling, and the bright yellow TV room with 3 screens built into the wall so he could watch all the networks at once. It was loud, it was excessive, and it was deeply personal. Graceland was Elvis turning a feeling into a place. The poor kid from Tupelo, who grew up sharing a 2-room house, wanted a fortress that announced he had made it. But he also wanted somewhere he could disappear from a world that never stopped pulling at him. So the same house that hosted wild late-night parties also held the meditation garden where he went to be alone. That contradiction is built into every room, and it is exactly why losing him there hit so hard. There is one part of Graceland, though, that no ticket will ever get you into. The second floor, Elvis's private quarters, his bedroom, his bathroom, the rooms where he actually lived, have been sealed off from the public since the day the tours began. Visitors walk through the kitchen and the den and the famous jungle room, but the staircase upstairs is roped off, and it has stayed that way for over 40 years out of respect for the family and for the place where he died. Almost nobody outside the inner circle has seen it. Whatever the upstairs looks like now, frozen in 1977 or quietly changed, remains one of the few genuine secrets the most toured home in America still keeps. And that closed-off floor is where the whole story turns dark. Because on August 16th, 1977, the world Elvis built around himself is where it ended. He was found unresponsive in the upstairs bathroom and pronounced dead at a Memphis hospital later that afternoon. He was 42. The official cause was heart failure, though the years of prescription medication that shadowed his final decade have been argued over ever since. Thousands of grieving fans flooded Elvis Presley Boulevard within hours. And just like that, the private fortress became a public wound. The gates that once kept the world out suddenly could not hold back the people who needed to say goodbye. But here is where the Graceland story takes its first sharp turn, and it is the part most people never hear. After Elvis died, the estate was bleeding money. Maintaining a property like Graceland costs a fortune, and the inheritance was tangled and shrinking fast. The estate Elvis left behind was reportedly worth only a few $1,000,000 on paper, and the upkeep alone was swallowing close to $500,000 a year. By the early 1980s, his ex-wife Priscilla Presley and the estate's advisors were staring at a real possibility that the family might not be able to keep it at all. The house that defined him could have been sold off, broken up, or quietly handed to someone who saw only square footage where fans saw a shrine. Everything Elvis had built to outlast him was, for a brief and terrifying window, one bad year away from slipping out of the family entirely. So they made a gamble that sounded almost disrespectful at the time. They opened Graceland to the public. In 1982, the doors opened for paid tours, and critics wondered whether anyone would actually pay to walk through a dead man's living room. The answer arrived almost immediately. The tours made back their startup costs in a matter of weeks. What looked like a desperate move turned out to be the thing that saved the entire legacy. The fans who came to mourn became the engine that kept the lights on, and the estate that was nearly lost became a business that would eventually be worth more than Elvis ever made while he was alive. From there, the empire only grew. The operation expanded across Elvis Presley Boulevard into a sprawling complex of museums, car displays, and his 2 private jets, including the Lisa Marie, the converted airliner he named after his daughter, complete with gold-plated seatbelts and a queen-sized bed. Decades later, a giant resort and entertainment campus called Elvis Presley's Memphis opened nearby, along with a 450-room hotel called the Guest House at Graceland. The mansion itself became one of the most visited private homes in America, second only to the White House in some counts, drawing fans from Japan, Brazil, and Germany who saved for years just to stand in the racquetball building where he played his last songs. And every brick of it traced back to that one risky decision to let strangers in. The grief never went away. It just got a turnstile. But for all that growth, the most valuable thing about Graceland was never the buildings at all. That financial machine is a big part of why the $500 million figure gets attached to Graceland today. The number is not really about the house. A 17,000 square foot mansion, however iconic, is not worth that on its own. The value lives in the entire ecosystem around it: the brand, the trademarks, the music rights, the relentless flow of visitors, and the simple fact that Elvis Presley remains one of the most recognizable names on Earth. The mansion is the heart of it. But the body is an empire that has been carefully protected for almost half a century. Protected, it turns out, because someone always seems to be circling it. And in 2024, that circling turned into one of the most brazen heists in celebrity estate history. A public notice appeared in a Memphis newspaper announcing that Graceland was going up for foreclosure auction. The claim was that Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's only daughter, had borrowed $3.8 million back in 2018 and put Graceland up as collateral, then died in 2023 without paying it back. A company called Nosany Investments said it was owed the money, and it was prepared to sell the king's home to the highest bidder on the courthouse steps. For a few days, it actually looked like it might happen. But Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and the heir who had inherited control of the estate, refused to let it go without a fight. She filed a lawsuit calling the whole thing a fraud. Her lawyers said her late mother never took out any such loan, that the signatures on the documents were forged, and that the lender behind it might not even be a real company. Then came the detail that cracked it open. The notary public whose name appeared on the loan paperwork signed a sworn statement saying she had never met Lisa Marie Presley and never notarized anything for her. The signature that was supposed to hand over Graceland had been faked. A judge halted the sale just one day before the auction was set to happen, ruling that Graceland was unique and that losing it would cause irreparable harm. And as investigators started pulling on the threads, the case stopped looking like a debt dispute and started looking like something out of a con artist movie. Nosany Investments appeared to be a ghost. Emails to the company bounced or returned bizarre out of office replies. One message even claimed the scheme was run by a Nigerian identity theft ring that targeted the dead and the elderly. The whole thing was smoke, and behind the smoke was one person. In August 2024, federal agents arrested a 53-year-old Missouri woman named Lisa Jeanine Findley. Prosecutors said she had invented the entire lender, posed as 3 different fictional people connected to it, fabricated the loan documents, and published the fake foreclosure notice herself. She had even used a string of aliases, including names like Gregory Nauseny and Kurt Nauseny, to make the phantom company feel real. Her plan, according to the Justice Department, was to scare the Presley family into paying a multi-million-dollar settlement, reportedly around $2.85 million, to make the threat quietly disappear. And here's the detail that is almost too perfect, the kind of thing a writer would be told to cut for being too on the nose. Findley was arrested on August 16th, the exact anniversary of the day Elvis died at Graceland, 47 years earlier. The woman who tried to steal his home was put in handcuffs on the one day the entire world was already thinking about his death. She pleaded guilty to mail fraud in early 2025, and in September of that year, she was sentenced to 4 years and 9 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of probation. The woman who tried to auction off the most famous home in American music will spend years behind bars, while Graceland keeps doing exactly what it has done since 1982. Opening its gates every morning, taking in the people who come to remember. Surviving the latest person who looked at a shrine and saw only a payday. And that is what makes Graceland so different from almost any other celebrity home. Most of them fade, the owner dies, the magic drains out, and the property quietly becomes real estate again. Graceland did the opposite. It was nearly lost, then reborn, then targeted, and somehow it keeps absorbing every blow and growing more valuable on the other side. The fraud plot did not damage its legend. If anything, it proved the legend, because you do not forge documents to steal an ordinary house. You do it because the name on the gate is worth more than the gold records inside. So when you look at Graceland in its 49th year without Elvis, you are not really looking at a $500 million property. You are looking at the last place he chose to be himself, frozen in the green shag, and the wrought iron gates and the meditation garden where his family still lies buried beside him. It is a home, a museum, a business, a crime scene, and a pilgrimage site all at once. The king has been gone for nearly half a century, but the house he built to disappear into never learned how to stay quiet. It still pulls people in from every corner of the world, still defends itself from the people who try to take it, and still refuses, after all this time, to be anything other than Elvis. So tell me what you think Graceland means in 2026. A shrine, an empire, or something we still cannot quite name. Drop it in the comments, and if this story pulled you in, the next one is already waiting on screen.